Good evening, I'm Cynthia Ng. Here are our top stories for tonight. Border clashes enter third week as Cambodian, Thai officials set to meet. And former Prime Minister Najib Razak stays in prison as court rejects bid to serve sentence under house arrest. All that and more coming up on AWANI International. Cambodia and Thailand will hold talks on Wednesday to discuss reviving a ceasefire as deadly border clashes enter a third week, displacing nearly 1 million people. The announcement follows an ASEAN summit in Kuala Lumpur today, marking the first face-to-face meeting between Cambodian and Thai officials since fighting resumed this month. Malaysian Foreign Minister Datuk Seri Muhammad Hassan called for urgent action to prevent further escalation.
Excellencies, in a highly interconnected ASEAN, we must consider the wider ramifications of the continued escalation of this situation for the people we serve. I urge all of us to give this matter your most urgent attention. Remember, in the eyes of the world, we have grown and thrived, and in the eyes of the world, we must also overcome our challenges.
Thailand's Foreign Minister Sihasak Pongkek Kiao said a meeting between military officials from both countries is a necessary step before any ceasefire can be reached. He added that the July ceasefire, brokered by US President Donald Trump, was rushed and failed to reflect conditions on the ground. At least 41 people have been killed since the latest escalation, with both sides blaming each other for reigniting the violence. Cambodia has yet to comment on the proposed talks, as mediation efforts continue by ASEAN, the US and China, all seeking to salvage a ceasefire and prevent further regional instability.
Following talks earlier today, Dr. Samseon of the Royal Academy of Cambodia calls on the international community to show its support to help bring an end to the conflict. He also urged all ASEAN member states to work together toward a regional solution.
We warmly welcome the intervention from those international community, because we are not the one that provoked the problem. We just want this problem to finish, to end as soon as possible. I think it is very important to have the third party, such as United States, China, or the European Union, or ASEAN, especially ASEAN, and especially Malaysia, Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, to work very hard to express the strong support to end this conflict, because we international community, I mean, if we focus on the problems between Cambodia and Thailand, it took place 100 years ago. I mean, after the France-Sham Treaty in 1904 and 1907. And then in 1962, when the ICJ formally announced that the Pravahia Temple is the land of Cambodia, located in the sovereignty of Cambodia.
While Samseon praised Malaysia's efforts to address the issue, he also urged other member states to step up, stressing the need for ASEAN to work collectively towards peace.
We hope for the stronger ASEAN, because it seems like during this time, the ASEAN country, ASEAN Association, it seems like the ASEAN capacity is very limited. We could not solve even our own problems. ASEAN is not strong enough. But however, we are thank you to Malaysia, especially the Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, that worked very hard to solve this problem. But we are asking about other ASEAN countries that they are the member of ASEAN, but they just keep quiet.
Malaysia's High Court has rejected Datuk Seri Najib Razak's bid to serve the remainder of his prison sentence in the SRC international case under house arrest. The ruling means the 72-year-old will remain in Kajang prison, where he has been held since 2022. Najib's defense team says they will be appealing the decision.
Najib's legal team argued that a royal addendum order was issued, converting his jail term to house arrest. But Judge Alice Loeb said while the order's existence was not in dispute, it was not legally enforceable because it was not made in consultation with the Pardons Board, as required under the Constitution. Najib is serving a reduced 6-year sentence after a Pardons Board last year halved his original 12-year term linked to the misappropriation of 43 million ringgit from SRC International. On Friday, the court is due to rule on additional corruption and money laundering charges against Najib, involving the illegal transfer of around 2.2 billion ringgit from the 1MDB scandal. If convicted, he could face up to 20 years in prison on each charge. 12 paintings linked to Malaysia's 1MDB asset recovery efforts are being prepared for repatriation. Authorities are assessing the logistics of returning the high-value artworks, estimated to be worth more than $30 million. Datuk Muhammad Zamri Zainul Abidin, Senior Director at the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, said the paintings must be handled with extreme care, particularly if they are to be sold. The collection includes works by Pablo Picasso, William H. Bailey, and Alexander Calder. All 12 paintings are currently held at Christie's and Sotheby's auction houses in the United States.
More news coming up shortly after the break. Welcome back. The United States is pursuing another oil tanker in international waters near Venezuela, stepping up pressure on President Nicolas Maduro's government. The operation on Sunday comes a day after the U.S. Coast Guard seized its second vessel off Venezuela in 2 weeks, part of a blockade ordered by President Donald Trump.
The vessel, identified as Bella 1, is a large crude carrier added last year to the U.S. Treasury's sanctions list, with alleged ties to China and Iran. The move is part of a blockade ordered by Trump, targeting all sanctioned oil tankers entering and leaving Venezuela. The U.S. has deployed its largest military presence in the region in decades, just off Venezuela's coast. It has carried out multiple strikes on boats it says are trafficking drugs, killing around 90 people since September. But the Trump administration has offered no evidence of drug trafficking, fueling claims that Washington is more focused on controlling Venezuela's oil and pushing for regime change.
China is condemning the U.S. seizure of an oil tanker, calling it a serious violation of international law. The vessel, intercepted by the U.S. Coast Guard in international waters off Venezuela on Saturday, was carrying 1.8 million barrels of crude oil bound for China. At a press briefing, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian said Venezuela has the right to develop relations with other countries and opposed all unilateral and illegal sanctions. American officials said documents show the tanker was loaded in Venezuela under a false name and was part of Venezuela's shadow fleet. Caracas called the interception a serious act of international piracy. China is the largest buyer of Venezuelan crude, which accounts for about 4% of its oil imports. U.S. President Donald Trump has appointed the governor of Louisiana, Jeff Landry, as his special envoy to Greenland, reigniting concerns in Denmark and Greenland over Washington's intentions for the Arctic island. Trump has repeatedly suggested that Greenland, a largely self-governing Danish territory, should become part of the U.S., citing security and resource interests.
Danish Foreign Minister Lars Rasmussen said the appointment confirms the continued American interest in Greenland. He also called out Landry's previous comments on social media about making Greenland part of the U.S. completely unacceptable. Trump, in the early months of his return to the White House, repeatedly called for U.S. jurisdiction over Greenland and has not ruled out military force to take control of the mineral-rich island. Greenland's Prime Minister, Jens Frederik Nielsen, meanwhile, emphasized that the island will decide its own future. Earlier this year, Vice President J.D. Vance visited a remote U.S. military base on the island and accused Denmark of underinvesting there. In August, Danish officials also summoned the U.S. ambassador over reports of covert influence operations linked to Trump associates in Greenland.
Israel's Security Cabinet has approved the recognition of 19 new settlements in the occupied West Bank as the government pushes ahead with its settlement expansion drive. The proposal, put forward by Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and Defense Minister Israel Katz, is seen as an effort to block the establishment of a Palestinian state.
The decision brings the total number of settlements approved over the past 3 years to 69, according to Smotrich. The approvals come just days after the United Nations said settlement expansion has reached its highest level since 2017. Israeli settlements in the occupied West Bank are considered illegal under international law. The move has also raised concerns over possible annexation of the West Bank, as violence in the territory has surged since October 2023. U.S. President Donald Trump has warned Israel against annexation, saying it would lose U.S. support if it proceeded.
A senior Russian general was killed in a car explosion in Moscow today, with officials pointing the finger at Ukraine for the latest assassination. Kiev, however, has not claimed responsibility for the attack. According to Russia's investigative committee, Lieutenant General Vanil Sarvarov, who ran combat training for Russia's forces in the war in Ukraine, died after a bomb installed under his car exploded on Monday morning. Several prominent Russians have been killed by explosive devices or shot dead in Moscow in attacks blamed on the Ukrainian security services. Last December, Kiev claimed responsibility for the killing of Igor Kirillov, a general in charge of the Russian military's nuclear and chemical weapons protection forces. He was killed by a bomb hidden in an electric scooter outside his apartment. U.S. officials under the Justice Department have denied redacting the Epstein files to protect President Donald Trump as criticism mounts over the censored release of documents. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche says items from the files, including a photo of Trump, were later reinstated after review.
At least 13 files from the thousands released on Friday disappeared from the Justice Department website without explanation by Saturday. In a statement on Sunday, the department said the image of Trump had been flagged by the Southern District of New York to protect victims. The image was later restored, but the other missing files have not reappeared. The Justice Department has faced backlash for failing to release the full set of documents by Friday's deadline as required by law. The files, including photos, videos and investigative material linked to the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, were highly anticipated and have renewed scrutiny of the government's handling of the case. Trump has consistently denied any wrongdoing in connection with Epstein and has not been accused of any crimes by his victims so far.
Japan is moving closer to restarting the world's largest nuclear power plant, marking a major shift in its energy policy nearly 15 years after the Fukushima disaster. Lawmakers in Niigata Prefecture have backed the governor in a confidence vote, clearing the final political hurdle for the Kashiwazaki Kariwa plant to resume operations.
The plant was among 54 reactors shut down after the 2011 earthquake and tsunami triggered the Fukushima nuclear crisis, the worst nuclear disaster since Chernobyl. It would be the first nuclear restart by Tokyo Electric Power Company, the operator of the doomed Fukushima plant. Japan has already restarted 14 reactors as it looks to reduce its heavy dependence on imported fossil fuels, which still supply up to 70% of its electricity. The government says rising demand, driven by power-hungry AI data centers, is forcing a rethink. Tokyo now plans to double nuclear energy's share of the power mix to 20% by 2040.
That wraps up AWANI International for tonight. Stay with us as we track the strategies and power shifts shaping the new global order. For more updates, visit international.astroawani.com and follow us on social media. I'm Cynthia Ng. Thank you for watching. Good night.